Welcome to Ring Talk, myself, Martin Theobald, and we're going to be joined shortly by Steve Goodwin and former Southern Area champion Rakeem Noble, who's now doing his own thing in boxing media. Really interesting character. Make sure you hang around, check him out. Quick review from the weekend, although we'll come into it shortly, I'm sure, anyway, with Steve and Rakeem. Lawrence Okolie, hugely impressive, picking up the WBO cruiserweight title on Saturday night. Hell of a performance. Glowacki looked out of his depth against a man who's, relatively a novice, 16 fights in. Brilliant finish. Showed great defensive awareness as well as his attacking prowess, improving so much under Shane McGuigan. Hugely impressed. Hugely impressed. On the undercard, Anthony Fowler, good stoppage win. Chris Billum-Smith beat Dakar on points, which people may not realise. Dakar is a threat. The way that he finished Nick Parper a few years back, that guy can go. Ellie Scotney, my favourite female fighter at the moment, just brilliant. She picks punches that you just don't see that often. She is a future world champion. I will put my neck on the line and say she is a future world champion. Ellie Scotney, hugely impressed with her. Only 2 fights in. Ramla Ali as well beat Bet Connolly, who, of course, Eddie Scotney had fought on her debut. Are we going to see those two down the line? Hopefully, that'd be a great fight. Coming up this weekend, we've got 3 cards in 2 nights in the UK. Well, I say in the UK. There's a bit of a lie, of course, because one of them's in Gibraltar. But we've got Frank Warren card Friday night, Frank Warren card Saturday night, Eddie Hearn card Saturday night. So we're going to run through some of those with Steve and Rakeem in more depth, but the highlight, of course, I suppose, being the pay-per-view card over in Gibraltar between Dillian White and Alexander Povetkin. Great fight, cracking fight. Some real good 50-50s on the undercard too. One fight you should not sleep on, though, is Danny Ball versus Sam Gilly on the Frank Warren card. Sam Gilly, who's come up through the small hall scene, fought on various shows of Steve Goodwin. He's a cracking fighter, and the winner of that goes into the welterweight mix domestically. So there's so much action to cover. We're going to go through loads of it with Steve and Rakeem. We'll get their take on things. So yeah, enjoy. Right, we're back, and we now have Steve. How are we, Steve?
Very good, Martin. Very good.
Excellent. And in his headset, looking resplendent, Rakeem Noble.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Not too bad, not too bad.
You're still looking, you looking fighting shape, Rakeem. You look like you could do 6 rounds tomorrow.
Listen, when I was boxing, I told people I lived the life. I wasn't lying. I literally lived the life. I'm just a natural boxer, natural shape. It can't be helped. I wasn't putting it on. I was just being me.
Are you still training?
Have I trained? I couldn't tell you the last time I trained. I could just about tell you the last time I left the house, let alone train. So I wouldn't say that I'm in fighting shape right about now.
But I reckon you wouldn't need to be in fighting shape. I remember your fights with great fondness, and your ability just to go and go and go, like through 10 rounds. I don't think you even need to train. I reckon you could do a 4-rounder like that.
I mean, I remember that fight with Kay Prosper. He was
insane,
absolutely relentless, wasn't he?
See, I could actually probably go in the ring and do a 4 or 6 rounder without too much effort. But the standard that I always like to be at the very top, best standard that I could possibly be. So I wouldn't want to do a 4-rounder by the end, be blowing or be making mistakes or be getting tagged or be getting hit, which a lot of fighters, once they step away, they make the mistake of thinking, oh, I can come back. It's not too hard. I've still got my shape. And that's where it goes wrong. That's where they get these brutal knockouts. That's where they end up taking damage, which they didn't need to take. I'm at the point right now where there's nothing physically stopping me from coming back. But thinking of the long term and thinking of how much I'm willing to put in at this point of my career and my life, you're not going to see me in the ring taking anyone anytime soon.
Good. I'm pleased, to be honest. Like, I think that's such a different mindset to a lot of boxers that still, you can see it in so many fighters that haven't fought in a while. I don't want to use the word retired, but fighters that haven't fought in a while that are like, you can still see there's a little spark somewhere that says, yeah, I've still got it. It never goes.
The thing is, no, that spark's still there. I see some of the fighters on today. over this lockdown period, I've been watching more boxing, seeing some of the fighters on the cards, and I think to myself, I was better than this. I could have done this. This kid's nothing special. But the practical sense in my mind is that, am I willing to wake up every day and go running? Am I willing to go to the gym 2-3 times a day? Am I willing to put my life on hold to go through that whole process cycle again, to be at that point where I was before in 2016, 2015? No, I'm not. No, I'm not. So to go in there today thinking I'm still that same guy from before, I'd be a fool. And I'd only be hurting and embarrassing myself.
You're too sensible, Rakeem. You didn't take enough punches while you're in there.
That was the whole point.
So let's go back through your career, and like, we're not going to go through every fight, but let's go through the major fights, the ones that people will remember. And there were three that stand out in my mind. When I think of your career, there were three that stand out. So we'll start with the first one, the Sahal Ahmed fight. Steve, give your memories of it, because what a fight! It was ridiculous.
Well, Sahal always, without being disrespectful to him, he was a tough kid, but he was really, when he fought Rakeem, I didn't think he could beat Rakeem. I thought Rakeem would win that relatively easily, because Sahal was, without being disrespectful to him, he was more of a hype job than a reality job, in my opinion. And then he fought Rakeem, and it was the maddest fight I think I've ever watched, because I think from what I remember, Sahal, because he could punch, he hit Rakeem, and I think Raheem went out, was out, totally out, and then woke up from being out, and then came back.
Like the Fury Wilder scenario.
Yeah, it was just unbelievable. It was probably one of the maddest fights I think I've ever seen live in my life.
What's your recollection and memory of it, Rakeem?
Funny enough, I remember that fight quite well. In the first round, there was 2 knockdowns. I scored 2 knockdowns to Sahel. In the second round, we scored a knockdown each. Third round, we just composed. Then the fourth round, I knocked him down twice to get. Was it twice? I knocked him down twice again. So
It's
I think there was
like a fight night game.
It was like a video game, pretty much. There was about 6 knockdowns altogether within the 4 rounds. So yeah, it was action-packed stuff. Action-packed stuff from round 1 to 4.
And did you get knocked out, do you think? Like, did you pass out from one of those punches, or were you always there?
No. I remember when he hit me. I remember he hitting me and then just crashing to the floor and thinking, what's going on? And then I realized I was on the floor, because that was the first time I've ever been knocked down before. So I wasn't quite sure what was going on. And I got up. I remember getting up pretty much almost straight away, but I was a bit disorientated. Like my balance wasn't great. But because at that point I'd already put him down 3 times, his balance wasn't great either. So
not watching 2 baby deers have a scrap.
Pretty much at that point, it was 2 Bambis on ice just having a scrap with each other, and he was throwing punches, he was missing. I was just trying to stay away. I think at one point he toppled over me and we both fell down. It was a crazy second round.
But I think it's probably fair to say your stamina was one of your biggest weapons. Do you think that got you through that fight?
Yeah, I was always a fitness guy. I loved doing my HIIT classes, cardio, cycling, mountain running, all that kind of stuff. I really thoroughly enjoyed, and I take my own time out to go and do that. And that conditioning is vital, because in them situations where you need to recover sooner rather than later, it definitely plays a part.
Is that footage online?
The fight?
Yeah.
There's a highlight reel of it up. There is a highlight reel.
The highlight reels would be about 20 minutes.
If you was to chop it all down, but there is a highlight reel. If you type in Rakeem Noble, Sahil Ahmed,
we'll have to find it and put it out. Sorry, Steve, you were saying something.
I was just going to say, both fighters that night deserve credit, because, I mean, Sahal deserves credit. He kept getting up, and, you know, he showed a lot of heart to come back. But, you know, Rakeem was I mean, remember, he got the record for that Babadag Mountain in Turkey, getting up there. My God, you've not seen it, mine, but it's hard enough to drive up it, let alone run. And it is so steep. They've even given up people driving up it now. They put chair lifts in to get from the bottom to the top, like ski lifts in. It's that steep. So now they've literally put that in from this year. And
Rakeem ran up it.
Rakeem ran up it. They all ran up it. Most of them. I think Michael McKinson was there, wasn't he, that day? Wasn't he?
Yeah, he was running with me at the front, and when it got to a certain point, his dad was like, "No, just get in the car. Don't worry about it. We're not going to finish it."
He couldn't do it. Josh tried. He gave up. Who finished? Somebody who finished behind you in second, quite a long way back.
Dave Abraham and Ollie Patterson finished about 20 minutes behind me. They got to the finish line in the end.
But he did. It was unbelievable. But no. But when you see that, you know full well that in a fight with any longevity, Rakeem was always going to win.
Yeah.
Always going to win. Any fight that went long distance, nobody was going to ever beat him over the long distance. Nobody. And I really mean that. You had to get rid of him, or you weren't winning if it got into the later rounds. Not a hope in hell.
So let's move on from the Sahal fight. The next one that stands out for me is the K Prosper fight. So for people that don't realise, at the time, there were, like in the southern area, around that lightweight division, there were certain names that were in the mix that people kind of had high hopes for, high regards for. And like, being frank about it, Rakeem, your name probably wasn't amongst the top ones out of them.
It wasn't. Let's be real, it wasn't.
But you had like K Prosper there, Michael Devine's name was always up there, CR Osgood's name was up there. And then you got put in for the southern area with K Prosper. But there wouldn't be too many people that would have picked you to win that night, would there?
There wasn't probably anyone that would have picked me to win that fight that night. At the time, yeah, the super lightweight division was so competitive. Osgood had a lot of hype around him. Prosper had a lot of hype around him. Michael Devine was a fighter who was always around the division that they said was a dangerous puncher. So I just had to take it upon myself to prove to everyone that I can compete with these. No, not compete. I can beat these guys. I am on the level of these guys, and keep things moving forwards.
Yeah, and that you did. So 10-round southern area fight. For anyone that hasn't seen it, it's the most incredible example of standing on someone's chest and making them fight your pace of fight to make it awkward and uncomfortable for them over a 10-round fight. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. I knew with K, he's a strong puncher. So if I give him, so for the whole camp, for the whole time, I've always been told K is a very dangerous and strong puncher. So if I give him room, he could bang me out from round 1 to round 10 with the right or left hand. So in my mind, it was just, I got to keep on him, because if I come off him, he's going to come on to me, and then it could be over. So I've always had that in the back of my mind. That's why from start to end, don't let up. Just keep going.
You smothered every opportunity he had, because I remember it vividly. Like I could flash my mind back and I'd be there still, no problem. In that he was always on the outside of the ring, up against the ropes, looking for, the nice little slips, counters. You weren't allowing it. Every time he did it, you would step into that same space and stop the rolls, stop the counter shots, and then throw your own. And you did that for 10 rounds. Because I remember after about 5-6 rounds thinking, he can't keep this up.
He's going to slow down now. He's going to get tired.
But doesn't that win look even better now?
Yes.
He never got the credit, Rakeem, in his career that he deserved. He was so much better than people even knew. And you'll move on to the next fight in a minute, but that fight was a real example of that. He was so underrated. He's probably, I would say, the most underrated fighter that I've ever managed, because he was so much better than people believed, and I still think he underachieved. Really,
I agree. Definitely.
Because he could have done so much better. It just didn't happen. But he could have fought for a British title, Rakeem. Definitely, in my opinion, he could have done.
Watching the fighters that are around now that are competing in the British ranks, the likes of Maxwell, Keenan Ennis-Brown, Philip Bowles, all good fighters. I was around at the same time that they were. And I do feel like if I was in the ring with them at the time that I would have given all those good guys a run for their money. I feel like I would have never been out of the fight. They were all fights that would have been hanging in the balance. And I feel I was one of those fighters that, from when I started, I was never seen as he's going to be the next big thing. He's going to go on to do amazing stuff in the sport. So it took a lot. It took time for people to warm to me. It took time for people to realize, he's actually not bad. Oh, okay, this kid's all right. The slow momentum build that I was having. So the fights, of course, with Ahmed and the fights with Prosper, they got me some recognition. But I feel by the time I got to the fight with Coyle and taking a setback, I just thought I didn't have enough momentum in me just to keep persistently going and going and going and fighting the odds. And moving on to the Coyle fight, I came out in the first round and I did everything that I did against Prosper in that 10-round fight. What I didn't do is I didn't follow up. When I came back into the corner, I thought, I'm doing everything that I meant to do. Maybe I'm making a mistake. Maybe I've gone wrong somewhere. Maybe I'm gonna burn myself out. I doubted, and that's why in the second round when I came out and I eased off him, he had the broken cheekbone. He kind of just went full in because he was trying to get the job done. Where I was thinking, let me slow myself down. And I didn't do what I did in the Prosper fight, in the Cole fight, and that inevitably cost me. But it was a learning. It was a learning.
Was that a conscious decision that you knew, for instance, Tommy Coyle was a level above people that you've fought before, and therefore was it in the back of your mind that you may not be able to keep up that same relentlessness that you did against Kay when you're fighting somebody who's a level above where Kay was at the time?
Yeah, definitely that came into it. The moment, everything around. Because like I said, I came out in the first round, had a brilliant first round. It turned out I'd actually broken his face in the first round, which I had no idea of. So when I was sitting in the corner, I was thinking, okay, this is going how I've planned. This is going too much how I've planned. I was kind of my worst enemy in that aspect, in that I backed off at a time where I should have really just pressed. And I think the whole just thinking too much, thinking sometimes can be your own worst enemy.
Do you think part of your lack of recognition for what you achieved at the time and now to some degree is because your personality type is not the brash, brazen boxer that people are probably used to, but actually is a bit quirky?
I think with that, what something it comes down to is that a lot of fighters say that boxing is their life. Without boxing, there's no plan B, no plan C. Boxing is either boxing or nothing. I feel with me, I've got a bit of a comfort in that I went to university, I went to college, I have a law degree, I've got other options around, other stuff that I can do, and I've always knew that that was something to go to. So with boxing, so after the Cole fight, I actually had another fight. I had a fight at York Hall on the 10th of June, which I won in 2 rounds, which I needed because that was the confidence boost, just to let me know that I can still do this. With all of that going around, I always knew there was other stuff that I wanted to do and stuff that I wanted to do. So once I felt boxing, maybe it's going to be too much of a push now. Maybe I'm going to have to sacrifice even more than what I did before to get back to that point. I thought maybe it's time to do other things, or maybe I can consider going on other paths. I never felt boxing was the only thing I could do. There's a whole world out there, as you guys see. Lockdown's kind of restricted me, but I like to travel. I like to go places. I like to see the globe, try new experiences, try new things. So for me, that was always an option.
Do you think? Do you think that? I'm trying to find the nicest way of wording this so that it doesn't come across the wrong way. But do you think the fact that you are educated, intelligent, you had other options? Do you think all those things held you back from boxing because of the fact that if somebody's, take the stereotypical, like from the streets, getting into trouble, that's their only potential way out of this, is that they happen to be really good at boxing. You happen to be really good at boxing, but you were also bright enough to realize you could make a future for yourself doing something that didn't involve getting walloped in the face, even though you were quite good at it.
No, that didn't. At no point that ever came into the mix. When I was fighting, competing, training, 100% all out. That's what it was. That's what I wanted to do. And at the time, yeah, that is what I wanted to do. When I was running up the mountain in Turkey, like Steve would say, at no point was I thinking about, I ain't got to do this. I could just go and read some books or do something else.
Yeah,
no,
that's
it was
what
always
I
100%.
Would it make it easier to stop doing it because you've got other options, or actually you're so committed still despite having other options?
No, it didn't make it easier. It was something at the time. Boxing was, even to this point, boxing I put over a lot of things in my life. Boxing is very important, very enjoyable. It didn't make it easier. Um, Nah. For me personally, no, it didn't make it easier.
And I feel like I need to quantify the word quirky earlier as well, because some people won't have a clue about some of your outside interests, Rakeem, of anime and Comic Con things, and the amount of Facebook pictures I've seen of you around Japan, like dressed as Spider-Man, and fill people in on that side of your life as well.
What can I say? I'm a man of culture. I like my anime, I like my superheroes, I like all that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's a big part of me. You might see me on Saturday night going 10 rounds for a Southern Area fight. You might see me the following weekend just as Spider-Man racing around a Comic Con in East London or something. So, diversity. Life's about diversity, about choice. I bring that variation.
Or out chasing Pokemon as well. I see you do that quite often, don't you?
Pokemon Go.
I don't know. I see it on Twitter. You put
Yeah.
stuff up about Pokemon. I ain't got a clue what it is.
I like my variation. I can never just be books. I can never just be boxing. I can never just be one thing, That's about the variety, spice of variety. That's what I like.
That's what always made you so fascinating, and still does to me as a boxer, is that there are so few that are willing to embrace other things aside from I'm a boxer. Here's a video of me training. Here's a video of me doing meal prep, etc. Like, you had so many other things going on that are fascinating.
I was never shy about projecting the things that I liked or the things that I felt. So all those things, they just get thrown into the mix. I think I haven't got them with me, but if you go and look, the shorts that I wore when I wore Seal Hill Armored for the Southern Area, if you look on my waistband, I've got a logo with Deadpool. That probably went over a lot of people's head, but I've got the Deadpool logo on my shorts. And that for me was to represent regenerating from anything. Because of course Deadpool will regenerate from anything. And for me, that fight was about regenerating. So when I got knocked down and I came right back up, regenerating from anything.
So, Steve, what was it like managing Rakeem during his fighting days? Given, again, this is someone who's probably of a slightly, I don't mean to be disrespectful to every other boxer that you work with, but probably on a slightly higher intelligence level and plane than most.
Very easy. Just so easy. He just got it. When you've got a boxer that's intelligent and understands, the job's it's really simple. Really simple. Because it's not difficult. The biggest problem you have is trying to convey to people what's going on, and if they don't really grasp it, because a lot of boxers just don't grasp the business side of it and don't understand. And if somebody tells them something that's just waffle, they believe it, and it's just very difficult to deal with. But Rakeem was absolute doddle. He just got it all, and we were all trying to do the same thing, and he was trying to get opportunities, and obviously Rakeem wanted to test himself. He tested himself with Sahel, then he tested himself with Kay. So he wanted those tests, and because the idea is, if you come through all those fights, then you create this. You know what you want to create. He didn't just want to stay in the small hall scene. He wanted to try and break out. So, and if you're good enough, you can break out. And he broke out, got the big fight on Sky Sports, and it just didn't go his way that night. But it was a doddle.
I'm going to recount back to a time I remember sitting with you two in Steve's office when it was just after Rakeem, he'd won the Southern Area against Kay. I think this gives an insight to boxers' minds. For people, when they look at fights at any level and go, oh, so-and-so won't fight him because he's scared, and so-and-so won't fight him. It was after you'd won that Southern Area, and one of the names we mentioned earlier, Sia Osgood, was on the agenda, as I think he was maybe a mandatory for it, or he was certainly being spoken about. And I remember being privy to that conversation and Steve kind of discussing with you about the idea of fighting Sia for the title. I think, Steve, your view at the time was, don't fight him for it now, fight him for something meaningful in a year's time.
When you're the champion, when you're the Southern Area, you've won a title and you're the Southern Area champion and you've won that belt, you want to move up at the level. You don't want to fight the hardest person that you can, because he would have been the hardest person for the Southern Area. You want to move on. And that's why he went and fought Tommy Coyle. But because to fight Sia Osgood, what's the point? You've already bypassed that. So why would you want to do a defence against somebody like that? I think on what you see, there is no doubt Rakeem would have won that fight against Okolie. And what you've seen going forward and how you've seen their careers, no doubt, Rakeem's 10s on, 12s on to win that fight. He wins that easily. He'd have just laid on him and just beaten him up for 10 rounds. But it didn't make sense. You've got to work out going forward. Now, if Okolie was the champion and Rakeem was challenging, then that would have been a different thing. Then I think, yes, of course you do that fight. So that was more. It wasn't the fact I didn't think Rakeem would win at the time. At the time, but it was the fact that it didn't make any sense.
Yeah, it was more about what's going to progress your career. This doesn't progress your career at this point to fight Sear. But then to flip it from the other side, I remember your view of it, Rakeem, being everyone says this bloke's really good. I want to fight him because everyone says he's really good.
See, at the time when I was area champion, I wasn't seen as the number one super lightweight. You had Prosper and you had Okolie seen as the two best of the division. So once I beat Prosper, in my mind, I was like, so I'm the best. Like no one can tell me that I'm not the best. So I remember for that summer, when I was actually getting ready for the fight with Kay, Okolie and Mickey Hellier, every other week, they would be tweeting me on Twitter or they'll be at me in messages saying, Rakeem's running from the real champion. The real champion's meant to be Sear Okolie. Give him his match. You're running scared. Blah 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 blah. So once I proved myself and won against Kay, at that point I never saw the hype of Okolie. I've been to about 2 of his fights. He didn't look impressive. From his resume, he had 11 wins at the time, maybe like 3 or 4 knockouts. He wasn't a knockout artist. There was a lot of gym stories. There was a lot of he did this to this person, he did this to that person. Yeah. He was in the Matchroom gym. There's a lot of stories, but I was not seeing absolutely anything. So in my mind, I had no issues fighting him because I didn't see the threat that everyone kept on saying. If he's this monster that everyone keeps saying, how come I'm not seeing it in his fights or in his records? So
there was no offer. They were tweeting Rakeem, but they wanted, in effect, us to do the show, Rakeem to sell the tickets and pay for Sear, because there was no financial offer. If they'd come along with a big chunk of money and Rakeem would thought, well, I'll do this because the money's too good to refuse. But there was never an offer. There were just tweets. It doesn't mean anything to make a financial offer. That tweeting and saying, I want the fight. Well, you want the fight. We'll make an offer. There was never, ever, ever a financial offer made, ever, for that fight.
Yeah.
Really? The way they were tweeting me, I thought they were offering you every day. I thought they were talking to you more than me.
No financial offer, ever.
Oh, interesting.
It always stands out in my memory, that conversation, for the, not friction, friction's the wrong word, but the different dichotomy between how a manager wants to move a fighter forward and how a fighter wants to clean up everybody around his division before moving forward. Yeah, it was always a fascinating insight.
If the financials had been good, there'd been a really good financial offer, then that would be different. But yeah, there was never an offer of anything, let alone a significant amount of money. So this is what fighters do. They tweet and go, "You're running scared," but they're just wanting you. I mean, I've got it with Ian Martell chasing Mark Little at the moment, saying, "I want to fight you for Southern Area." It's all lined up. Well, you've not made him an offer. You're trying to get us to put the fight on for you. Just go away. Go away. You want to fight, make us proper offer, get somebody to make an offer, but because you haven't got the right backing, don't go chasing people for fights by Twitter. Just make an offer. And if the money's good enough, I'm sure people will do it.
So when you stepped away from the sport then, Rakeem, was it a conscious retirement from boxing? Or was it, as you mentioned, you had that 2-rounder at York Hall where you stopped the guy. Was it then I'm going to step away and see where boxing is in a year? Or did you know you were kind of done with it?
No, I actually didn't. So the fight against the fight in York Hall in June, won that by 2 rounds. And after that, I was actually scheduled to fight Philip Bowles in September. I think it was the 9th of September. And that would have been about a month before I left to go to Japan. So at this point, Japan was already scheduled up. So I was planning to fight Philip Bowles. That was going to be an English eliminator, go away for the year, and when I come back, we'll see where things go from there. So of course, the fight with Philip Bowles, his trainer was away, didn't happen, it fell through, and I went out to Japan. Whilst I was in Japan, I did pursue training. I found a gym in my area which has some professional fighters. I was training, I was sparring down there. I was there a couple times a week just to keep myself relatively ticking over. Um, Japan politics and getting fights is a whole other story in itself. That wasn't able to happen. If I was to have tried to campaign to get fights in Japan, I would have probably done nothing else. I would have done no traveling, no exploring, no sightseeing. It would have been boxing and nothing. But I thought, you know what, I'm here for the year. I'll box when I get back home.
I
So
told you
initially, when I got back,
every Japanese fighter ducked you, Rakeem. That's the story.
that's another side of it. Because like I said, when the coach out there put my profile out to the other fighters, he didn't get much of a friendly response back. So
They bottled it.
I kept out there training and sparring with some of the fighters, some decent fighters out there. But when I got back to the UK, I actually got straight back into the gym. I was training with I was sparring with Isaac Dogbo because he had his WBO world title defense. I was sparring training with Hannah Rankin. She was getting ready to fight Clarissa Shields within a month of when I got back. So I got back straight into the mix, pursued for a bit, but the momentum eventually, I think when it got to the new year, the momentum eventually just kind of crept right down. I kind of felt like I was straight back into the same position I was prior to when I left. How the momentum's slow, opportunities are still fairly fast. I'm still gonna have to put in a highly amount of work compared to what I was doing beforehand. And yeah, that wasn't enough to keep the passion driven. So I was in the gym, I was doing bits and pieces with some of the fighters at Miguel's, but for myself, yeah, I wasn't able to get myself out of the starting blocks for that.
Yeah. And so now, like, we're what, 2-3 years on from that. Now, I mean, from behind, you've got your box story stuff up. So fill people in with what you're doing now. You've got your YouTube channel going on. You're interviewing fighters yourself. You've almost crossed over now into being a boxing fan, and that murky world of boxing fan Twitter, getting involved with the likes of Del G. No one needs that in their life, Rakeem.
Let me just say, boxing Twitter is a whole nother thing in itself. You see the boxing on Sky and BT and the Zone. Boxing Twitter is a whole different, it's a whole different thing. So yeah, of course, during the pandemic, I had a lot of time indoors. I'm still watching the boxing. I'm following the boxing. To be honest, I've probably started watching boxing more now since we've been at home because hey, what else is there to do? So I just started looking into boxing, looking into more boxing stories, looking into more events that have happened in the past, and I just started documenting on them. A lot of the fighters, I know a lot of the fighters. I've trained with a lot of the fighters. I've known them for many years, so it's not been too hard to get interviews with some of them. Doing research pieces. Like I said, boxing is something that I've generally got a passion for. So spending hours on the internet researching. This is what I was doing anyway. What I'm doing now is simply just finding my information and spreading it to the world of what I find. So yeah, that's how it started. So of course, it's still pandemic time. There's only so much you can do. But when we go back to normal living, I should say, I'd like to see how far I can go with it and how much I can get around and get some more interviews and get some more boxing footage and just give you some exclusive stories that you don't hear too often.
Yeah. So is there an aim for it for you personally, or is it more that? And I can sympathise with this one entirely. More that you just enjoy hearing stories about boxing, and the more that you can help people get their stories out there, brilliant.
It's a bit of both, you know. Of course, boxing, bone my heart, love it, got a passion for it, and it's great to get other fighters out there, learn about stories and the history of what's been going on. But at the same time, I would like to get more involved within boxing. I would love to get more involved with the commentary side, with the analyst side, with the behind the scenes side. Just finding and giving opportunities out to fighters one way or another. So I think right now I'm just in a space where I interview fighters, I talk to fighters, I research fighters, I collab with certain other individuals on certain projects, and we'll just see where it goes because there's lots of stuff to be doing in boxing. There's lots of things to be getting on with, and I would like to keep myself involved one way or another, whether I'm not in the ring or not.
And you seem to be a big advocate of women's boxing. Is that fair?
Yeah, that is fair, and that is something which I didn't actually expect to happen. But whilst I was so let's say in November, I started looking into and researching lots of boxing stories and lots of events that's going on. And I started to notice, oh, there's actually a lot of interesting stuff that's happening in women's boxing. Or there's lots of stuff that's present or that's happened, but no one ever talks about it. with women's boxing, there's so much news and there's just so little people talking about it. So without any intention, yeah, it just turned out that a lot of the information and content that I started to spill out was to do around women boxing. So that's been one of my strong fortes that I've had since starting my channel. But yeah, I do cover, of course, all ranges, the men as well. But yeah, there's lots of interesting stuff going on in women's boxing. I feel like it's a market which is only just going to continue and start growing from now.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a lot bigger in, let's say, 3 years than it is now.
And before we move on from anything else, where can people find your, and I know you're going to say box story because I can see it on your screen behind. Where can people find your channels, your social medias? Put it all out there so people can find you.
You can find me on Instagram. You can find me on Twitter. It's the same handle, boxstory_RKM. If you just type in box story, BOXSTROY_RKM, you will be able to find me. Boxstory_RKM, Twitter and Instagram.
And you are going to stay with us as well for the looking forward to this weekend's cards, aren't you? Because we're going to move on to that.
Oh, yes. Yeah, we'll stick with that. We've got the Frank Warren card on Friday. We've got another Frank Warren card on Friday. Then we've got the big card in Gibraltar, the Matchroom show. And also, I'm not sure if you guys are aware, but on Thursday in Puerto Rico, you've got the female featherweight WBO, WBC featherweight championship between Daniela Berminda and Amanda Serrano. So that's a big fight as well.
I can have a week off here. Just let you do it. Right. You're far better than I am. I haven't prepared anything. Right, we're back. We've got loads to get through. We've got 3 cards to preview. But before we do... Oh, and a Q&A. Before we do, let's quickly glance back over the weekend. We're not going to go through all of it, but we are going to touch on, firstly, I think Steve and I's favourite female kind of headline Matchroom fighter at present, Ellie Scotney. What do you guys think?
Yeah, she put on a good show. She put on a good performance. She was against a girl who's 4-1, who's looking to be competing for the French title in the next few fights, came to win, has ambition in her, and she dealt with her pretty comfortably. So for a second professional fight, she showed all the tools and skills that she needs to be operating at that level of female fighters that are looking to start competing for titles. So a good win for her.
Steve?
I think she was impressive. I think she's still building up her strength. I think at this particular moment, she lacks that little bit of power that I think will come in time. I hope she's not rushed, but she's got Adam Booth, so I'm sure she won't be. Because the thing with it is, I don't want her winning a world title. I think she could win a world title probably within 12 months, but then you're in. Once you've won one, you're in. So I think she could be sensational, and I just hope that, and I'm sure they will, that they develop her at the right speed to make sure when she gets there, she's really ready for it.
She's got some lovely punch. That lead uppercut that she threw that just proper snapped back the head. Oh, she's good.
She's not ready for a Lisa Whiteside type fight yet? I mean, that's a year away, isn't it? Do you not think?
I don't. My ignorance is women's boxing in general. Like, I don't know enough about it. But when I see Ebony Bridges can get a world title fight on the back of beating up a 44-year-old fucking grandmother or whatever in Australia, then on that premise, Ellie Scotney can fight for a world title next week.
On that premise, for sure. Yeah.
On that premise, any woman fighter with some amateur background could fight for a world title, then you could say after 3 fights. So I think that's kind of disrupted what the level of or expectation we should say of women getting fights in, because women after 5 or anyone after 5 fights, unless you're Lomachenko, shouldn't be getting a world title at 5 fights, especially with 0 amateur background. So
I think that's the whole setup, and I don't.
Do you not think it really degrades women's boxing by letting by that happening? I think women's boxing is getting a lot of traction. Rakeem, Hannah Rankin, who's she'll fight anybody anywhere. These people have done wonderful things for women's boxing, and then you stage something like this. I mean, Shannon Courtney against Ebony Bridges, neither one of them. I mean, Shannon couldn't even beat Rachel Ball, who at that point was just considered to be an opponent. And, in reality, this is it really degrades women's boxing.
It does. Women's boxing has come forward so much over the last 24 months. And I don't blame Shannon Courtney. I don't blame Ebony Bridges. I blame the WBA. And to some degree, I blame Hearn because, I mean, look, it's his job to sell the fights. Cool, I get that. But if you want to build a product, don't degrade it at the same time. And the WBA are at fault because they shouldn't be sanctioning that as a world title. Not that I know, not that I could list 10 people that should be fighting instead of it, but I'm sure there are.
I could name 2.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Well, of course, this isn't the first time the WBA have had a shady approach when it comes to their rankings or who gets world titles. I think the fight in itself, Ebony Bridges versus Shannon Courtney, is a very interesting fight because, of course, Ebony Bridges has seemed to build up this mass cult following on social media with majority of UK fans. And Shannon Courtney, she's been the girl that we've watched develop over the Matchroom shows over the last 2 years. So putting them together in a matchup which actually catches attention is actually a good piece of marketing. That's good by Eddie Hearn, and it's good from Bridges from putting herself out there. But yeah, being for a world title, I don't think it should be for a world title. It's a very interesting fight in itself. The weigh-in's going to probably break all kinds of numbers on the internet and have Twitter going all kinds of mad. But for a world title, I think maybe make it for an intercontinental belt, an international belt, but not for a full world title. That's where I feel it passes the line and then turns it into a bit of discredibility.
I've no issue with the fight whatsoever. They're both, novices basically as pros. No issue with that fight whatsoever. Let them fight. Cool. And I'm behind that. It's the fact that you have to sell it as a world title that really grates.
Yeah.
I'm not. Yeah, but fair play. Bridges has built up this weird following because there's a group of men that seemingly haven't found porn yet, and therefore think a woman turning up on some scales in her underwear is the greatest thing they've ever seen. Like, it's so odd.
I can assure you, half the followers are probably not actual boxing fans.
No, it's so weird. Anyway,
she put herself out there. She's got some attention. She's getting flights over to America for fights in the UK. She's doing something right. I'll give her due for that.
Do not blame her whatsoever. But shout out real fighters like Hannah Rankin, who has got some big fight news coming up soon as well. I was messaging her the other day about some stuff, but she said she's got a big fight coming up soon. She's only just come off the one in South Africa. So
I think, of course, can't disclose it here, but I think I might know what that one is.
The woman's a machine.
I think you would do, Rakeem, yeah. When we went to Tommy Coyle, we went to the Tommy Coyle fight. Hannah came with Rakeem to that fight.
Ah, excellent.
Yeah, so she's been
in the corner from way back. We're teammates always.
Yeah,
she's an absolute machine. She is such an admirable fighter, and I don't mean that as a woman fighter. I just mean as a fighter. Like, she fights anyone. Anyway, Lawrence Okolie, give me your verdicts.
I think Lawrence Okolie is so improved under Shane McGuigan. I think he was awful to watch before the jab and grab. He's now looking like a real world-class fighter. He dispatched a former world champion with ease. He's so awkward. I think he'll blitz through the cruiserweight division before he goes up to heavyweight. And he's actually a really nice fella as well. I mean, I met him a few times. And no, he's a really nice fella, and good luck to him. And I really wish him all the best because it's somebody I don't begrudge it. He's took his stick, he's come back, he's changed trainers, and he's sorted it out. And no, full credit off to him. And I was delighted for him.
Rakeem?
Yeah, Lawrence, he done the job. Of course, before the fight, it's world level, stepping up. Is he going to be able to hack it? Is he going to sink or swim? He swam all over it. 16 fights, picked up the British, Commonwealth, European titles. He's went down the traditional route. He's beat everyone that's in front of him. And he's with Glowacki, he did that excellently. He executed it fine. Now he's got the likes of the guy from Congo, I think it's Bakuba, and Predis, the Latvian. So those will be some interesting fights to look forward to down the line. And I don't think he's out of his depth. I don't think at all he's out of his depth. He's an Olympic level boxer. Breezed through in 16 fights to get where he is. I think he's still going to get better. He's still going to improve. He's not at the end of it. He puts in the work, and he's reaping the benefits of it. So yeah, all the best to him. I'm looking to see him put that division all together and unify it.
Do you see him straight away going on and unifying? I mean, let's pause and say what an amazing achievement it is, all those belts that he's picked up to this point. And therefore, it's almost doing him a disservice to start rushing him forward now to unifying, because we wouldn't do it with any other fighters, particularly. But do you see him doing that?
I think it'll be a good idea for him. I think it'll be a good idea, to slow down the bandwagon. He had his book out. He's got his music song out. He's now stepping over into the celebrity side of things. Build him up. Let him have a few fights where he headlines a show. Well, when you're allowed to have shows and fans, put him in a show where he can headline. It's all about him. He's the main event. Build him up a bit more, and then you can go on to the unification fights. Because right now he's done it in quick time. He's done it in rapid time. And he's still only just pretty much known within the boxing world. Let him get that star exposure. Give him the Anthony Joshua. Give him the Joshua treatment. Let him be that celebrity. Let him be the guy on billboards and posters for a bit. Market him. Because, yeah, he's got time. He's 28 years old. He's still got time. He ain't got to do it all right just now.
But he blitzes through all the cruiserweights that are out there. But, I mean, I agree. It's all about doing it with the right profile. And as Rakeem said, he's bang on. But he will become undisputed if that's where they want to go when they press the button.
I was a non-fan. I'm not going to say hater, but I didn't enjoy Okolie as a boxer. I never really knew his personality, I suppose. However, his personality has grown with his boxing. For me, over the last 12 months, stuff like bringing out a book and bringing out his rap track, I think that's brilliant. Like actually putting yourself out there. And yeah, you'll take the criticism that comes with it. But I think similar to yourself, Rakeem, what I was kind of alluding to earlier, and somebody who's doing things a little bit differently and taking those risks, I admire that massively in the bloke. It's made me not a massive fan. It's made me a fan of him. It's turned my views around hugely. He excites me now.
I think that's
there's a good thing to look forward to with him for sure.
I think a lot of fighters should take a page out of that book. You can be more than just a fighter. I'm sure there's skills or talents or things that you have or things that you can do and bring to the table. And whilst you're in this media, because boxing is a short career, you're only going to be in boxing for what? Average 6 to 8 years at your peak. Let people know who you are. Get your personality out there. Show them your attributes. Do other stuff. Do music. Do songs. Do TV. Do commercials. Do acting. Do whatever you want whilst the spotlight's on you, because it's only going to last for a short period of time. And you want this to set you up for the rest of your days on. Create your legacy. And yeah, Okolie, perfect timing to release your book when your world title fight is. Perfect timing to release your music song around your world title fight, because yeah, all eyes are on you. Make the most of it. You're only going to get this shine for a period of time. Milk it to the max.
Only thing that annoyed me is he didn't rap it to the ring. I really wanted him to rap his own tune to the ring. That would have been amazing.
I thought when the fight finished and they played his song, I thought he was going to pick up the mic and start rapping it then.
Oh, wouldn't that be brilliant?
That was the perfect time.
Right, let's move on though, because we've got loads to cover. Friday night, Frank Warren's show.
Oh, before we move on, I just want to recap on one fight from the weekend, which might have went over a lot of people's heads. Lawrence Okolie picked up the WBO title. Out in Thailand, Sean Bardo picked up the PBA light heavyweight title in Thailand in his second pro fight. Sean Bardo is a 40-year-old Thailand resident who was born and grew up in the UK. Shout out to him, because it takes a lot of balls to go to another country and win in 2 rounds, pick up a world title. So shout out to Sean Bardo for that one.
Picking up that PBA world title.
PBA, only his second fight.
Someone sent me the link to that. Someone sent me the link.
I sent you the link to that.
Yeah, you can buy it for like $150 on eBay. That's amazing.
Don't take it away from Sean. He went out there, first the undefeated kid who was 0-0 at the time, and he bought it
backyard,
home country, did the thing, did the business.
Rakeem should be a promoter.
Yeah, I'm down with that.
I have Sean Bardo on the.
I'd imagine he literally went to his backyard and beat him.
He doesn't say the venue, but it probably was a backyard. You know, some of the fights in these countries, it's probably in his someone's living room. But hey, two world champions on the space of a weekend. So hey, we're happy British public.
And people won't recognise it. It's sad.
Sad. You don't get many 50-year-olds going out to Thailand in the away corner picking up titles, but you know, we shout them out here.
You get a lot of 50-year-olds going out to Thailand, but that's a different story. Right, moving on.
To be honest.
Moving on. Frank Warren's card. So he's got two. He's running the Friday and the Saturday, and they've been plagued by injuries, illnesses, pullouts. I feel for him.
So Friday,
fight
is Danny Bull, Sam Gilly.
That's a cracking fight, isn't it?
I mean, the rest of them. We're going to just talk about the important fights. Zach Parker's got an easy fight. Brad Foster's got a relatively easy fight. Dennis McCann will blitzes. Sam Maxwell's got Ben Fields. That's the one fight. So that's the fight to pick. And it's been interesting on the betting markets. Danny Bull opened up at 5-4 on. Sam Gilly opened up 5-4, 11-8 against. Sam Gilly is now 8-11 on. And Bull has gone out to 5-4, 11-8 against. There's been a flip of the betting odds from one to the other, and that's been interesting. It's been a lot. That's a fair bit of money to move that market. So there's been plenty of money on Gilly.
Who'd you favour?
I watched Sam Gilly in his last fight against Curtis Felix, and Curtis Felix was doing really well in that fight until he tired at the end.
Yeah.
And you've got to say that Curtis Felix got quite heavily beaten by Echo Esserman. So I think that puts out where they are. I watched Bull on YouTube, watched some of his fights. He's not great. He's okay. He's a decent fighter, but I honestly think it's a pick'em. It's a total pick'em. I wouldn't be surprised at any results. I hope Sam Gilly wins. But I think it's a real 50-50. But I do think it could be the fight of the weekend.
So do I.
You got any view on it, Rakeem? To be fair, I don't know too much about either fighter. Sam Gilly, he trains with Rod Julian, right?
He does, yeah.
Yeah, I've heard little bits about, the smallest about Gilly, but to be fair, I don't know too much about the fighters, so I'll be watching that one just as a spectator. And I guess the one who goes on from here pretty much puts himself into the welterweight mix.
They both come forward. They both throw body shots, head shots. They are just, it cannot fail to be a brilliant fight. Cannot fail.
Agree. And,
who do you fancy, by the way? Because you're asking us.
Gilly.
You fancy Gilly, yeah.
I do. I think Bull showed that he's got limitations, whereas Gilly hasn't evidenced that as yet. I mean, the Curtis Felix fight, as you say, Echo Esserman did a far better job than Sam Gilly did on Curtis Felix. But I think Echo Esserman's a little bit special, so I think it's maybe not a fair benchmark to create.
But then Bull is no Echo Esserman. I mean, if this had been Sam Gilly against Echo Esserman, you could have, in my opinion, Echo Esserman comfortably. But it isn't Echo Esserman. I don't think Bull is not an Echo Esserman. But I think it's a 50-50 fight. It's a pick'em fight, and I think the weight of money probably tells you that Sam is the right favourite.
Yeah, it's a cracking fight. I look forward to it. Let's move on to Saturday then. And it's worth mentioning as well regarding that Friday one, the fact that Rakeem Ellis-Brown had to pull out, didn't he, from this fight. It's a real shame because it was looking a decent weekend's lineup. But anyway, yeah, on to the Saturday. Where should we start? Gibraltar?
Let's just start with Frank and let's deal with the big card at the end. We can get through the Frank cards quite quickly. Again, there's only one fight.
I just wanted to say that the Rakeem Ellis-Brown, Stan Maxwell fight. I was actually really looking forward to that fight. I feel that was going to be a real good test for Rakeem because since Rakeem came onto the scene in 2016, if you look at his resume, his last 7 fights, he's taking the away corner and just beating convincingly good fighters each time around, experienced fighters, undefeated fighters, and he's really shocked a lot of people, turned a lot of heads, and he's one of those fighters who every fight it's him against everyone. If he loses this fight, he's pretty much out of the game. Only his last fight after beating Philip Bowers, now he won the British title, would I say that, yeah, he's here to stay. But before that, every fight was, it's make or break, it's make or break. So I'm glad he's in the position he's in now. And yeah, I look forward to him getting that fight on sometime down the line.
I always remember when he rocked up at York Hall against Freddie Kawit. And he brought, he got a drummer and a rapper and what have you to bring him to the ring. And I thought, fuck's this guy? What's he got with him? And he turned up and he drops Freddie in, was it the second round maybe? Something like that. And you're like, whoa. And he was so good that night. And from then I've taken a real interest in his career. And as you say, he's always been that away fighter. Hopefully he gets the breaks. It's unfortunate.
It's a cracking fight. But listen, that main event now is fantastic. So that's the Bull Gilly fight is worth it alone. In my opinion.
So the Saturday night, you say Lennox Clark, Woody Hutchinson.
Yeah, that's a great. I like that fight. The rest of it is pretty much the home up and coming fighters against the foreign journeymen with flashy records who aren't very good. But I think the Hutchinson Clark fight could be very interesting. I mean, Hutchinson's a long odds on favourite, but I think Clark will give him plenty to think about.
What do you reckon, Rakeem?
Yeah, I think for a British title fight, this is a really good dust-up. Willie Hutchinson, of course, the next shining prospect. Lennox Clark is a proven level British fighter. Only one loss coming to Lerone Richards, and Lerone's quality in himself. I think for momentum, maybe Willie Hutchinson, I'll take Willie Hutchinson to take it, but it's definitely a good level British title contest, and it's definitely a fight tuning in for. I'll say that one.
Can I get your view on this, Rakeem? Because I don't know how much of a variable this is going to be, but as an ex-fighter who's gone through the motions himself, you can probably add some flesh to it. Mm-hmm. Willie Hutchinson has never, to the best of my knowledge, made that weight limit. He's been fighting up around light heavyweight, and now he's coming down for super middleweight for a British title fight. Is that going to make a big difference, you think?
Ooh, that's interesting. I guess it really just depends on his team around him and how much they've taken into consideration and shifting the weight. It's quite actually. How much over has he been fighting super middleweight limit? Has it been a few pounds, or has it been quite heavy amounts?
I'll just check it, but I remember when he was with Hay, he was struggling then he was struggling with his weight at that time, and
he was struggling light heavy back then, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was struggling to do light heavy, and he's now old. That was when he was 19, 20. He made 169 in his last fight, so he wasn't far off. That was the closest he's ever got. But then he was fighting a nobody. He just knocked him out in a round, so that doesn't mean anything. Prior to that, the lowest he'd ever been is 173. And these are all on day before weigh-ins.
This would all depend how good his team is around him, how good the people he is feeding him the information about nutrition and dieting, and how they can time it off. But it's very, very strange that he's never been close to the weight. Maybe that could be something to play down the line in the fight. We may see that unravel as the fight goes on, but that is a strange one.
Did you notice in their head-to-head, he keeps calling Lennox Clark little man, because he obviously in his head thinks he's going to be the bigger man and everything like this. I mean, if Willie Hutchinson doesn't get rid of him, I think he could struggle in this fight. I'm not saying he won't win, and I'm not saying it's worth a bet against him, but he may well struggle if this goes down the stretch.
I think that weight issue could be a factor because there's no reason not to have made super middle before. And also, surely there's got to be questions somewhere. How are you fighting for the British title when you've never made the weight?
And also, he's never fought anybody. He's never fought. Look at who he's fought.
Yeah.
To be fair, in this day and age of boxing, we're seeing that a lot. We're seeing fighters get put into opportunities or chances because they have the special title attached to them. If he lives up to the mark and he wins the fight, then of course, no one will question his last few opponents. Mm-hmm. But if he loses, then I'm sure many questions will get popped up as into why he was in the British title fight in the first place.
Yeah, but it's another great fight. And I'll be channel hopping, trying to work out how to watch that and watch what's going on over in Gibraltar, where it's a card of. Let's not get into what is or isn't pay-per-view worthy, but
we don't do that anymore.
It's interesting enough fights throughout, isn't it?
I think it's a really interesting card, and we don't say pay-per-view because, as far as I'm concerned, you could have Shannon Courtney, Ebony Bridges pay-per-view, and the British public will pay for it. So yeah. I'm afraid if you pay, as I've always said, it's supply and demand. If you're going to keep paying, you get it. So this is, we've now got Chisora Parker pay-per-view. You're going to get it because you're paying for it. So we need to stop that argument. But yeah, if we look at the card itself from top to bottom, and I think we'll just go for each fight. Campbell Hatton making his debut. He'll get a pass, but good luck to him. Fabio Wardley, who I really love as a heavyweight. He's got Eric Molina, brilliant matchmaking. Because Molina, Fabio will look good against Molina.
It's a good job that's not happening in the UK. I'm not sure Eric Molina's allowed to fight back here yet.
What's he done? Why's that?
Just check the UCAD website. Move on.
Oh, okay. Yusuf Kamari, Kane Baker's the next one. I think that's a really good fight.
Very good.
Kane Baker, who has got the Liam Dillon type style, against Yusuf. I think Yusuf's favourite. I think the bookies have got it too wide. I think 5-2 on Yusuf, 5-2 Kane Baker. I don't see it that wide. Look, Yusuf may well have improved, but on his performance against Liam Dillon, he's no 5-2 on shot against Kane Baker. Because Yusuf is super talented, but he spent too much time on the ropes against Liam Dillon. And if he spends all that time on the ropes while Kane Baker comes forward, he'll have the same problems again. I think it's a really interesting fight, but it's not the odds that they've got it, in my opinion.
Will you have a bet on that then?
No, I don't. I bet when I've got significant edges. I don't think it's a significant edge. And again, I don't know how much Yusuf has improved or how much he's learned from the Liam Dillon fight. I don't know. If he's learned a lot from the Liam Dillon fight, he'll win. But if he hasn't, this staying on the ropes doesn't give you points wins in this world. Most referees do like the come forward style. And I know that when he fought Liam, I had Liam winning. Josh had Yusuf winning. I think there was a split around ringside, but it was very, very close. There's no way. Kane Baker's only lost to good kids.
Yeah.
Doesn't lose to average kids. So Yusuf is a good kid, but I'm not convinced. I'm not just convinced yet. So I think it'd be a really good fight, and it could be Yusuf's breakout fight. It's an interesting fight. What's your view on it, Rakeem?
So this fight, when this fight first got announced, I actually did a review on it on my page because I was very intrigued by this fight. I'm familiar with both fighters. Yusuf, of course, done the home fighter route, built himself up, and I think under the Goodwin stable, he was probably one of the most notable boxers. Kane Baker, he took the away corner route where he went on the road. He took the hard fights. He built himself up. He learned. And Kane has a really hard persistency in that he will come back time and time and time again. So both these fighters from the small hall level have gone full circle and have found themselves on the pay-per-view cards, both with different stories, both with different styles. It's one that I'm pretty split down the middle of this one as well, because is it going to be the home fighter that did everything right, or is it going to be the away fighter who learned the hard way and his lessons are going to be what gives him the edge in the fight? So I'm looking forward to that one. Personal interest, I'm quite interested in that one as well. I interviewed both guys, both great guys, seem really cool. I'm just hoping for a good fight for that one.
Martin?
Yusuf. I think he'll win wide on points.
Well, he's got the skill set to do so.
Yeah, I think he will. Chris Congo, Michael Mackinson. That could be the fight of the night.
This is where the bookies have got it really wrong.
Go on, then.
No way is Michael McKinson a 5-2 shot against Chris Congo. No way. No way. If Michael could punch, which he can't, but if he could punch, he'd be above British level. Above British level. He is so awkward, so difficult to fight. And Chris Congo was not that impressive in his last fight with Luther Clay. He was not impressive. Michael McKinson is everybody's nightmare. I'm not saying that he's a certainty to win, but he is no 5-2 chance. But I also think the fight will be awful.
I agree.
Be awful to watch.
But I look forward to it because I think you're going to have two. I think Congo will get frustrated by 4-5 and have to take risks that will lead to potential openings for Mackinson. As you say,
he can't punch.
Yeah, but it'll give him opportunities.
But I actually think Mikey could win this, and I think 5-2. Look, I have Chris Congo as favourite, not that wide. Similar to the use of Kamari Kane Baker, but Michael McKinson at 5-2 is a better 5-2 shot than Kane Baker is.
What do you reckon, Rakeem?
I mean, you know Michael really well, so
I know both of them really well. Of course, me and Michael, good friends. Me and Chris, we used to spar at Miguel's from 2014 to 2016. So I shared the ring with both of them. This fight can go either way. Chris, of course, GB boy, 6 foot, natural athlete. If he keeps it at bay and boxes that range, I think Chris, he'll have the edge of the fight. Michael, if he closes the gap, uses his awkwardness and just gets in Chris's face and brings the fight to Chris, I think Michael can then walk away with the win. I think it's just depending on what their tactics are. Both fighters capable of winning. It just depends on what tactics their coaches tell them to implement. What McKinson doesn't want to do is he doesn't want to stand off Chris and give Chris his time and space to look silky and look skillful. Yeah. What Congo doesn't want to do is he doesn't want to get up in McKinson's face and let him be awkward and let him use that awkward southpaw range to throw shots and angles and all sorts. So it's another one on the fence again. I like both guys, both great guys. Really boring, but fence.
Right, let's go to the main event, the big boys. And we've got...
Fight for Nick Webb.
I don't care, if I'm honest. I know that's horrible, but I don't.
Cheeseman Metcalf.
Metcalf has been kept back from danger for too long. There's too many question marks there for me. Cheeseman has, I fear, got too many miles on the clock at such a young age. The fight doesn't really do anything, but Cheeseman wins for me. Metcalf's been nurtured too long.
Rakeem?
When you're 21-0 and you've not fought anyone of a notable level, it does raise the question: how good is this guy? What is this guy really doing here? I don't say Metcalf's just showing up for a payday. I believe he's coming to win, but for him, I'll say this is make or break. Are you good enough to be stepping up and versing credible opponents, or are you just playing it safe? Cheeseman, he's quite a few miles on him, quite a few battles. Probably too many shots you'd say a fighter shouldn't be taking at his young age. I think he's only 25 years old.
Yeah. And he's had his out of the ring struggles as well, isn't he? Like there's a whole lot of alarm bells around that lad's career.
Yeah, the whole gambling, all that kind of stuff. So Cheeseman has the experience to win this fight. He's got the pedigree to win this fight. I think it depends what Cheeseman shows up on the day. But I'm more swayed towards Cheeseman in this one.
Metcalf's odds on here, you know.
Is he?
Cheeseman's odds. Cheeseman's 5-4 against, 11-8 against.
That surprises me. Yeah, there's too many question marks around Metcalf. Why have you kept him back for that long?
Another good fight though. This is another
brilliant fight. Brilliant fight.
The only fight I think will be crap will be Chris against Michael. So,
but it carries intrigue even if it's a crap fight.
But let's go to the main event, Rakeem. The main event.
Main event. Okay, so of course last time around Dylan was doing everything right up until he got caught. I think if Dylan goes out with a similar plan or the same plan, he can get the job done. I think he will correct the wrong that he made in the 5th round. He will tuck up, put his chin in, not get caught. And I think Dylan White takes his rematch how he was on course doing for the first fight.
And I agree. But if he doesn't, the Dylan White train is over.
Unfortunately, it will seem so. Then he kind of goes into the opponent role, and they're not going to have as much backing behind him as they have now. So
I would say he wouldn't be a pay-per-view fighter anymore. But after Derek Chisora losing 10 times, you can't really say that. But I think in reality, the aspirations of what he has for his career, to mix it with the Wilders, the Fury, the Joshuas, if he doesn't beat Povetkin, he's done for that. But I think he beats Povetkin this time. I mean, Povetkin's 41 years of age or whatever he is. I mean, it's ridiculous what happened last time. And I think bringing in Knight to the team is important because, not being funny, the preparation, he had Xavier doing it last time, but then he didn't have enough confidence in Xavier not to bring Dave Coldwell in last minute. That does not tell you of a boxer that's confident that you've got to bring in Dave Coldwell in the week before the fight. And to me, that was always an alarm bell, because if you're not confident enough with your coach, then when you've got to do that, there's always an alarm bell. This time he's got Harold Knight there. That should be a totally different ball game. So with Xavier and Knight, I see no reason. I don't think he'll make the errors. I think his preparation will be better, and I see him walking through Povetkin and stopping him halfway through the fight probably. But that's what I see. What do you see, Martin?
No, I'm with you. I think White can make the additions, which he's done in getting in Knight, and he can make the changes in training camp, and he can make the changes in approach. But ultimately, 99 things out of 100 in that first fight, he was doing correctly anyway. So he doesn't need to make wholesale changes. He needs to make small adjustments. Whereas Povetkin has gone away, got a little bit older, got COVID. He's turning up with a bit of a wheezy cough. I don't favour him to see the fight out. I think White will stop him.
So do I. I think
it's White's fight to lose. I think it's Dylan's fight to lose. If Dylan puts a step wrong, then the fight can go in Povetkin's favour. But as long as Dylan does everything he's meant to do,
there'll be a difference this time. He was going back to the corner with somebody shouting instructions at him who he'd never worked with before. It's ridiculous for a fight of that magnitude. How poor is the preparation that you've done that? That's ridiculous.
But now they've been in Portugal for a whole year now together. I spoke to Xavier a couple of weeks ago. They've been living same place, same training, whole year round. That bond of not just training together for a year, living together for a year. I think they've now jumped 3 years of getting to know each other when you're stuck in a house with someone for that period of time. So I think it's going to be a whole different setup.
Xavier's a good trainer, and he deserves a shot. But that just was not when I saw Coldwell was appointed last time, and I thought, there's problems here. And I genuinely felt that. I felt there was because you're going to go back to the corner, and then Coldwell wasn't supposed to say anything, and then he was shouting over Xavier. So the corner wasn't right last time, and that's why he's going out there and making mistakes, because it wasn't a clear and concise corner. He'll get that this time, and I think he wins.
Agree.
Right, we've got a Q&A to do.
Okay.
We're going to have to do it very, very quickly.
We will, yeah. Let's go quick.
Right. Plans for Dion Juma now that the Chris Billum-Smith fight didn't happen. Steve, you've addressed this on Twitter. Address it now.
No plans, because I don't manage him anymore. Contract, I arranged, got him mandatory, came to the British title fight. I was managing him. He got an injury. I was managing the injury, sorting the medicals out. Dion kept telling me he was sending the contract back to renew. In the end, I just said, look, I can't do any more until you send the contract. He then rang the next day after I said I couldn't do any more with the medical, and said I've decided to change my route and appointed a new manager. So I don't manage him anymore.
Right, put to bed. Dion Juma is not a conversation point. Will Steve do an outdoor show at Kenilworth Road for Kay Prosper's first defence of the EBU title?
Firstly, Luton FC do not want to stage boxing on their pitch. We have approached Luton Town before.
Well, we'll find somewhere else for the first.
Yeah.
Does Steve have any regrets letting Yusuf Kamari go now that he is currently fighting on pay-per-view shows and could be a potential star?
Didn't let Yusuf go, came to the end of his 3-year contract. Dylan White offered him an opportunity that I could not have offered him, because Dylan runs his own cards. So therefore, his trainer's working with Dylan. So they therefore for Yusuf an opportunity. So Yusuf then signed with Dylan White. No hard feelings. Made sense.
All right. If the UK government keep moving the goalposts on opening up, will Steve consider getting Brad Pauls out on another promoter's show behind closed doors?
Been trying to do that, but the fights that we're offered are not the right fights for him.
All right, we're flying through these, by the way. Yeah. Thoughts on the latest Twitter feud between Brad and the 100k bottler?
I don't care about the 100. I do not care about the 100k bottler. He's not a proper fighter. Don't discuss it anymore. Move on.
Has Steve got any betting tips for the weekend? Hopefully you've got them already. Their view, Danny Ball to beat Sam Gilly, Mackinson to beat Congo, Cheeseman to beat Metcalf, coming in at 12-1. That's what he's going with. Tim Brown.
He's not fighting. Yeah, I mean, we've covered those fights already. Yeah.
Right. 1 minute. Let's run through this. What do you think Hearn's next move is for UK TV? Does he jump ship to DAZN or stay with Sky?
Wouldn't have a clue because I don't know what's on offer. How would I know?
What would you do?
Depends who's giving me the most money and what makes the most sense.
I'd go with DAZN. It's cool, isn't it?
Eddie can do what he likes. He can probably get both of them. He's probably at the moment trying to negotiate to keep both ticking over. That's what I bet he's really doing.
Yeah, he wants a main one and a side chick, doesn't he? That's what
he wants to keep both. He wants to keep both. And to be honest, I could see them both. I could see them both giving him both.
Yeah, if he's the best at what he does and he's got the biggest stable and he can provide the most content, it wouldn't surprise me if he ends up working with others around the world to provide enough content for everyone.
I agree.
Right, that's it. We've run out of time. But thank you so much, Rakeem, for coming on. Give us your time. Go back over your career. We'll have you again.
Yeah, sounds good. Anytime Rakeem wants to come on, he can come on.
Of course. I'll see you guys on Boxing Twitter, the most noble place in the boxing world.
Cheers, Steve.
See you later.